Hello, my name is Rodolfo Loyola. I'm CEO and founder of Flamingo Simulation Systems. We are here at our headquarters in Mexico, and we are, we're going to be talking about the game, Kit Pilot, that we're going to be releasing, and also about the company a little bit, so you guys get to know us a little bit. And I have a presentation here of the journey that we've lived as a company. Why it was very important to do VR now? Because VR is at a state right now where people get very excited by it and very surprised by it just by playing VR. So it's a time in the development of VR and the development of games that is never going to come back. I compare it to when the film industry was in their infancy. They had these movies where they had a train coming with the Lumiere brothers, and people thought that it was actually going to come out of the screen, and they got very scared, right? So that novelty effect is happening in VR as now. And then later, these directors came like Georges Méliès with Flight to the Moon and Fritz Lang with Metropolis, that developed a language of filmmaking, right? So right now we are, as VR developers, we are creating a language of a narrative language for virtual reality. So we're going to start with Kit Pilot. This was our first bet to introduce people into the VR space and to make it feel so it's a game that is designed specifically for VR and not just something that is borrowed from film or borrowed from other standard 2D games, right? Kit Pilot is going to be ready for the 23rd of May, or maybe it's out by the time you're watching this. Here's our Steam page. Here's a little bit of some GIFs of how the game plays. It plays really easily by just moving a plane on your hand, just like when you were a kid. You can play this game by wishlisting or buying it if it's already out by the time you're watching this. And let's get on. Here is the pause menu, so I'm just gonna get going. And here is Volara. Volara is the hub where you choose the world where you want to go. You have Cocobongo, Girafloat, Topotron, Parakeet Mangrove, Macmanimus, the boss fight, and Dragordito. Let's start with something small like Girafloat. This is level 1, so to speak. But first of all, let's just play here for a while. One of the main things of the game, of the most important things, is that just flying around, just the mechanic of flying, it's the most fun mechanic. So anything that we put on top of that, we knew we were gonna be fine. There's gonna be an interesting and fun game just by having the flying mechanic be fun, right? Because you can go anywhere, and that's one of the things that we really like about virtual reality, is the amount of agency that you can have, right? You can go anywhere you want. Any little tight gap that you can see here, you can go through, and it is a lot of fun. And actually, you can master the craft of the art of flying, for example, and get really good at it, like extremely crazy good. For example, right? And so the game is designed to help you develop those skills, right? So it starts very slow at the beginning, and then later it gets pretty intense. And we are working on an expansion that's gonna get even more intense. And just this moving the plane and moving in a 3D space is very intuitive. We compare it to the way you move in a computer. You know, it's very easy to navigate a computer using a mouse. In VR, it's very easy to navigate the space using an airplane. And we think that the way that we move in Kit Pilot is going to translate into future experiences that we develop for you guys, where it's just very easy to move from in a VR space without getting motion sickness or just feeling like very slow, right? The teleporting thing we don't like. If in our game you'll never see VR hands. We hate VR hands because why would you want to be a human if you're already in VR? I mean, to me it just feels very contrived to just keep being a human when you can be anything in VR, right? We're very limited by our humanity, so why carry that into the VR world? And we explore these topics also in our graphic novel. This is some of the screenshots of our offices in Mexico. Here are people working. These are some of the very talented people that work for us. And also one of the things that we're developing is this VR chair, so that later we can give you guys a full experience of our games in a chair. We think that we bet for PC VR. We think that it's better to have the clunky big hardware peripheral, but to have the top-notch high quality visuals rather than to have something that is like the standalone headsets that are really practical, but the experiences are not quite there yet. So it's very disappointing to get your headset and then feel like you're playing a lesser version of what you thought that we're gonna experience by watching the trailers, right? I think it's similar to when the very early games, people were playing the arcades and thinking that, oh, I'm gonna go buy Pac-Man for my Atari. It's going to be the same experience I played in the arcade, and then being very disappointed by the lower quality of their consoles. So we think that until the standalone headsets can compare to PC VR, we shouldn't be developing that much content for that until they're up there, right? So that's why we're doing this VR chair. It's very recommended to play Kid Pilot on a spinning chair. That's the best way to do it. I mean, I have this one here, but mostly, I mean, in my experience, most PC VR gamers already have a setup that they feel comfortable with. And again, just to show you that everything it responds to your bullets. It's the way that you touch and feel your environment, right? So well, the postcards is something important as well. The story of Kid Pilot is you're a kid and you have a dad, and that gives you these postcards to sort of help you come of age, and it'll tell you some tips and some hints on what to do in the game. Here is my best time, the targets, the depths. This is a speedway, a challenge of speed and accuracy, Dragorditos Speedway, which is a play on words of dragon and gordito, which is fat in Spanish. And let's start. But before we start, I'm gonna show you the level a little bit. So in this game, you're gonna take that bullet, that bomb, and it'll boost my speed. And then there's gonna be targets. There's gonna be fire as well. That these things can be scary once you're in there. And also you're gonna be taking your time. And so the curse is not gonna open until I grab the power up. But again, you can. Oh, well, that was embarrassing. I was trying to to show you just how good you can get in the game. Let me do that again. Because I mean, in theory, you can get so good that you can just go anywhere. You know, like let me get a little fancy here. Yeah, there we go. And you can get really good, and especially the later instances that we're working on are gonna be crazy. But we want people to get good at the game first. So this is just the beginning, guys. Later we're gonna come back with some expansions and more fun games for you guys, and deeper and harder levels. But we want people to just catch up to the mechanics, and then later we'll get serious. But this one is already quite a step up in difficulty. So let me show you. It also has a great soundtrack, I think. So here you go a little bit higher speed, and this skin that I'm showing, you get it by getting all the targets. You get to get really good and play it. It has a lot of replay value because, and I tell you, I've played this game so many times for testing purposes, and yet I still find it fun, seriously. It's because you get into this state of flow where you just, I don't know, it's very satisfying to go through the whole level and make a perfect run. You know, hit all the targets, get all the marks, do it in a faster time. For example, right now I haven't missed a shot, which is very hard to do. But every bullet has impacted on a target. No wasted bullets. So that's an acquired skill. So I dare you to pass this level like this. Get this good. So if you're watching this and you haven't wishlisted this, stop it and wishlist now, so you can make a better time than I'm gonna make right now, and then show me how, I don't know, put me to shame. And if you haven't, some people play this game actually because I released it as a demo. This level, sorry. I mean, to me, I got so good at it that it's very hard for me to die. Look at that. Pilot, everything done.
Hello, my name is Diego and I'm the art director for Kith Pilot, the latest game coming out of Flamingo Simulation Systems. I'm here at the main offices and today I'm gonna play the game and give you a bit of director's commentary, specifically on the art. And give you a little behind the scenes on how this works. So I'm in the game, let's go. I'm gonna start by defining what art direction is so we can all be on the same page. On a superficial level, one might assume that it's just about making the game look very pretty. And that is partially true, but it goes a bit deeper than that. We're trying to build and craft an aesthetic for a particular purpose. And what that purpose is, well, that depends on the level and the mood we're trying to convey to the user or the player. Do we want them to feel welcomed and relaxed? Do we want them to feel a bit more pressured or anxious, even scared if they're going up against a boss fight? And it's basically how to complement that whole arc that the player goes through. In this case, for Kith Pilot, all while maintaining a stylized and kind of like childlike wonder imagination. After all, the game is called Kith Pilot, and there's a certain level of stylization in the worlds. So I'm gonna quickly go into two of my favorite levels. One of them is called Parakeet Mangrove. And in the hub that we're in, we access them through these things we like to call the world capsules. So here we go. All right. So a big part of Kith Pilot is these postcards that as you play through, you'll find out a bit more about who is sending these postcards, and they tell you not only tips and tricks about the worlds you're adventuring, but also a bit of lore as to why you're in this place. You can also see that I have a different plane than the blue plane you saw at the beginning. This one is more tropical themed. It's called Agüita de Coco. And he shoots out this little coconut milk bullets. So this is Parakeet Mangrove. This is our attempt at making a less linear level here. It's more focused on exploration and sort of just enjoying and collecting these different parakeets. And this is a really good time to talk about one of the challenges when making a game, not only from the game design point of view, but from the art, is player agency. And a lot of games, the player is free to move the camera around and look at wherever they want. So it's always a challenge to, you know, direct or unconsciously make the player go where we want them to go. And in VR, this is pretty much multiplied by 10, because especially in a game like this, I can like look around whenever I want. So all the way from Greybox, we always keep that in mind to set up important landmarks and not only use silhouette and shape, but also color and these sort of breadcrumbs. A big part also is illumination and textures. For example, in this area, how we can go into much cooler and kind of mysterious tones in contrast with the other areas of the game. So yeah, illumination and textures also play a big part, which couldn't be possible without the other talented artists at the studio. I'm gonna go inside one of the pretty sections here. Going through the waterfall. You always gotta check waterfalls, what's behind them. Can give you a little bit of a hint for to find different parakeets. So yeah, I always like grabbing this one. Alright, I'm gonna go now to Topotron, one of my favorite levels in the game. Right now I'm only gonna run through 2 of them. There's still 5 more if you want to wishlist the game and check it out.
The instance, for us, I'm talking about this developing narrative language for VR. Instances are the basic unit of narrative in virtual reality. For example, in a graphic novel, you have the panel, right? And a sequence of panels make a story. In film, you have the scene, and a sequence of scenes create a narrative in film. In traditional video games, you have levels, and a sequence of levels create a narrative in traditional video games. And in VR, it's instances, right? We've came with this concept of an instant, and this is a symbol that I created for the instance. And this is a sequence of instances is how you develop a narrative in VR. This is how it looks, a map of a narrative in VR. And this, for example, one path the player might take, another path the player might take, another path a player might take. And all these experiences, they will get an X experience, right? I compare it to life. For example, life, we live instance to instance, and at the end, we'll all have an X experience, which I think it's dying, for example, right? We all are going to die eventually in this life, and that is the unifying experience that no matter what path you take in life, at the end, you are going to experience that. So that's the design of the narrative of life, right? So life is very similar to VR because you have as much agency as in life, and you can go anywhere, do anything. And so it's just natural that we mirror the design of the narrative of life into these VR realms, right? And right now, they're very short and small because our computers and our processing power just allows us to make these very tiny instances. But later, we'll develop into words.
Or if it's released by this time, just get it and have fun the experience. I'm gonna go to Topotron, which features one of our first animated NPCs, which is really wacky, and I love how he turned out. So as always, we get the little message giving us a hint as to what we're about to face. And there he is. What a guy. Let's ruin his day. Okay, there you go. Love the music. So a big part also that you can see in comparison to the last level is that this one is much more linear and closed off. That's also something that from the art department we have to take into consideration because Parakeet Mangrove, the level before this, was much more open, so the asset and texture budget we have is much more limited because it's easy to say, oh, let's make the game look as highest density of polygons and textures as possible, but it's also important that gameplay is king and performance is a big part of it. So for me personally, I really enjoy that technical challenge of trying to achieve the most with the least amount of assets or data possible, just to enhance performance. Another big reason why I like this instance is the amazing VFX done by our texture and VFX artist. You can see that we wanted to go for these kind of pixely, voxel, arcadey vibe while maintaining also this soft and cushioned environment which these walls show. Another thing you can see is that they react to your bullets. That's something that we've kept in mind from the game direction side of things, that our game director can talk more about how it's really important for the levels to feel alive and to react to the player, not just look static and pretty for pictures. They also have to feel alive. Ooh, that was so close. All right, gotta stay focused here. Colors are also a big part. You will notice as you play the game that the use of yellow, blue, and red is prevalent throughout the whole experience, with red usually being the tougher challenges. And music is also a big part of it. Damn it, I died. But hey, that's the fun of Kit Pilot. Even if you die, you have that irk to try again. It's always good to also keep in mind the whole project as a whole and not just, and see how they all work together. This is sort of analyzing the color palettes of the first three instances of the game. And what I'm trying to say is to always look back and see the whole game as a whole and not just get really caught up on the details of one specific level. These are some fun drawings. You can see on the far left there a screenshot from the gray box of the engine, which is a crude gray box, and how we as artists take those images and build off on top of that and try to expand on that. We also try to put as much information as possible on textures and sort of gameplay mechanics using Blender. And you can see that from this we can go through all the way to a more finished product. This is an in-game screenshot, which, to be fair, still doesn't do it justice, as when you're playing it in there, considering that there's all these moving VFX, and you can really appreciate the textures as you fly by these objects. Another big part is the graphic design of all the different level titles that we have in the game, paired up with their world capsules and how we try to analyze how to approach these assets. And going back to what didn't work, it's also good to look back at the different ideas we had for any future project or inspiration. And it's also good to know why that didn't work and understand how it kept on evolving until the Volera Tower we have right now, the main hub. And to end it off on a sneak peek, we here at Flamingo Simulation Systems are always looking how to expand on the gameplay and take our players to new and improved destinations. This is, as you remember from the beginning, very blue sky, which we hope we can show you guys very soon. But that is just a bit of the concept art and the different phases that we work with, along with game direction and art direction. It's all this like very fun and experimental way of tackling games, and it's a blast working in game development. So yes.
Here's a shout to our boy Charlie, who has been recording us today and making this look as professional as possible. As we can, exactly. So here is Magnanimous. There is that going. Wow. That. Okay, that was the teaser.
That was major.
Yeah, because I don't want to spoil the fun. You know that you gotta earn that looking at that. I mean, you have to, otherwise, you know, when I was a kid, the games that I really liked, like for example, like Street Fighters and everything, I love unlocking the characters, right? That you only had like a set number of characters, and then later you unlock them. That and I get to play with this character now or whatever, right? And so I don't want to spoil that fun for you guys. So I'm gonna go into Coco Bongo, which is probably my favorite instance of them all. Coco Bongo, a Coco and a Bongo, a great couple. And this one has a vibe sort of like an Indiana Jones vibe. This is my score so far, and I like it a lot because it's ever changing. Well, I have to make a score better than my dad's, which is 42,000. And so when you're ready, this is also I really like it. Oh, there it is. And this one has a very mysterious vibe, and there's a lot of secrets in Coco Bongo actually. Let's see if you can find them. I'm not gonna show you any. I'm just gonna show you the thing, and again, I just love to get crazy and explore. And if you're a greedy pilot, we have an achievement for you as well. For a greedy pilot that wants to get all the coins. And so Coco Bongo is ever changing. Like if I die right now and I go back in, it'll change. It won't be the same path. And it took us a while to develop that, to make it, seamless. I love going through leaves, which is the sound effect and the feeling of the leaves on your face. Like for example, here there's many routes I can take. I can take this route, I can take that route, I can take, let's go through this route. Wow, full speed. And so again, the theme of colors are represented here as well, where we are in the yellow section. And when you go through enough levels of the yellow, then you go through the blue and finally the red. But that's it. I mean, I feel like you should play it for your own. Seriously, you should stop watching this and then just buy it and play it, or wishlist it and then wait for the game to be released. It's seriously a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun developing it and testing it, and we know that anyone can play it. That's one of the cool things about that. I don't know if you guys have experienced, buying a cool VR game and then being unable to share it with your family or with a friend that is not an expert in VR, right? And this one, seriously, you don't need that much experience to enjoy it, because the controllers are so simple. I mean, what is more simple than just move your hand and then one button to shoot, and then that's it. I mean, it's like Mario, right? You just move and jump. Here is move and shoot, and anyone can instantly just get a hold of the controller and then play. So I think that is really, really valuable to make VR more accessible to everyone. I love VR. I think it's one of the best things that happened to video games ever, and it has a lot of bad rep right now, man. Let me tell you, because they are just adapting games into VR, which is not the way you should be doing, because it's a weird experience. It's a weird experience teleporting with a thing. It's a weird experience walking without walking. Until we have omnidirectional treadmill that works like a charm, we shouldn't be making walking around games. Or if you can justify in the game the mechanic of teleporting, then okay, I'm all for it. But it just feels stupid to be a human and then be teleporting and moving around and then not feeling like you're moving and sitting here in a chair. But this, seriously, it just feels so good, because I'm no longer a human. I'm an airplane. So I don't care where am I forget that I'm a human being sitting here I'm an airplane. I don't care. I can go anywhere I want. I can do whatever I want, you know?